OK, we can go back to Liverpool because the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy joins us now straight from that speech. Thank you for speaking to us this afternoon. We heard some very tough language there from the Prime Minister, directed very much at Nigel Farage and Reform UK, saying that Nigel Farage has crossed a moral line, that he's an enemy and that the government will fight him. Is that rhetoric justified, do you think?
Well, first of all, this is an extraordinary development when you think about it. I've never heard a speech from a Labour leader that barely referred to the Conservatives. This is taking the fight to reform. It's calling out their grievance and the way that they continue to divide and run down the story. It's challenging people to look closely at what their story is for rebuilding Britain. I thought it was brilliant, and of course it's calling a spade, and people will recognise that as well.
I mean, we are expecting Nigel Farage to respond to this, and we think that he's going to say that actually this kind of rhetoric can incite violence against reform, and then it's going to lead to American-style polarisation in British politics. Do you think it was a bit reckless?
I think he's got a bit of a brass neck, hasn't he, Nigel Farage? This story goes back a long way. This is calling out his policies that would line people up who have a right to be in this country, who might be Indian, who might be Nigerian, and send them home. It's not British, it doesn't respect our values, and Keir Starmer was very articulate about that. But of course, he also talked about an apprenticeship for our young people. I thought it was right to move away from the 50% target and move on to apprenticeships as a gold standard. He also talked about the NHS being available online. All of that, I think, will appeal to the general public where they are.
Just to go back, though, to those words aimed at Nigel Farage, I mean, it is quite unusual to have a speech which is focused so much on one person in many ways. I mean, you've called his immigration policy, haven't you, racist. Do you think Nigel Farage is a racist? Is that what this speech was all about?
Well, you just said we called his policy racist, and that's because it is. There will be many people listening to this programme who live in streets where people have not got full citizenship, but they've got a right to remain. That means the process by which they came to this country has found to be correct. They are from a part of Asia. They are from a part of Africa. Nigel Farage would send them home. That, I'm afraid, is discriminatory. It is racist. The policy is racist. Keir Starmer was very clear. He plays the ball, not the man. He looks at the policies, and you could go on. Nigel Farage wants you to pay for your NHS. Nigel Farage wants massive tax cuts, a bit like Liz Truss. We'd see a run on the pound. All of that was called out in this speech, and Keir Starmer was absolutely right to do it.
So yes or no, is Nigel Farage a racist?
I answered your question. I'm not going to play the man. I'm playing the ball as our leader did. I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public, but we will be absolutely clear about the policy choice before the British people in the years ahead as we head to the general election.
Well, I'm sure we will be hearing from Nigel Farage at some point after that to refute some of those suggestions. Are you worried that you might be alienating voters who might be thinking of voting Reform? There are a lot of them, let's face it. You are a long way behind Reform in the polls.
The way to take on Reform is to scrutinise their policies. I think the British public do not want to pay for their National Health Service. I think the British public recognise we cannot afford a run on the bond markets because Nigel Farage wants uncosted tax cuts. And I think the British public will recognise that just like Windrush, we should not be deporting people who have a right to be in this country, are contributing to this country, their children are contributing to this country. That is entirely wrong, and it's not the British way.
How confident are you that Keir Starmer will stay in the job, particularly after elections next year in Scotland, Wales and English local elections as well?
Keir Starmer has got a massive mandate from the British public to get on with the job of renewal. He's been clear today also that we will stick to our fiscal rules, which is absolutely right. All of us know we head to a budget at the end of November, and yes, we will have local elections in May. And in those local elections, we will take on Plaid Cymru, we will take on SNP, we will take on the Lib Dems and Greens, and we will take on Reform. We will fight for every single vote. We hope to be and remain the largest party of local government.
You mentioned there the announcement about universities dropping that 50% target of people going to universities. What's the thinking behind that? Are you concerned that many young people aren't actually getting value from money from universities?
Well, I thought that the Prime Minister was very articulate about people that work with their hands, about the skill of his father, about the respect and dignity, about the fact that we know that if we went back a few years, often middle-class people didn't want an apprenticeship for their children. That was for other people's children. They wanted their children to go to university. The economy is changing. There's now been a significant investment in STEM subjects. There are these gold standard apprenticeships. They should be as much valued as getting a degree.
Is the problem that, further education has been eroded? We've heard a lot over the years about apprenticeships. How quickly can you make this change for young people?
Well, that was why the pledge to continue to invest in further education, to see standards rising in further education, to recognise actually that that's where a lot of working families send their children. That needs investment, that needs support. The staff and teachers there need that support. I'm really pleased to see further education getting a mention. Usually in speeches like this, it's universities and schools where we tend to focus all of our attention.
The Prime Minister obviously touched on Gaza briefly, particularly the new peace plan that's been put forward by America and this role, as yet undefined, of Sir Tony Blair, of course, former Labour Prime Minister. What do you make of his involvement in this?
Well, look, I know because I was Foreign Secretary that Tony Blair, right from the beginning of this crisis, just a few weeks after October the 7th, was urging the Biden administration to focus on the day after and not solely on a ceasefire, because he saw that that was the best means to get the ceasefire. Since then, of course, we've had the Prime Minister's framework for peace. We've had the Arab plan. We've had French proposals. All of those come together in this new 21-point plan led by Trump and the Trump administration. Now, it's important that the Palestinian Authority is engaged and there's a transition to the Palestinian Authority. That has always been the UK position. It's important that we have the support of the Arab League and Arab communities, particularly. They must play a role, it seems to me, in the future governance of Gaza. But if there needs to be a Grand Committee, of course, demonstrating US and indeed UK involvement, then I welcome the attempts that have been put together by Tony Blair and Donald Trump.
How confident are you that this will lead to an end to hostilities? Donald Trump sounds very optimistic, but he has sounded very optimistic before, hasn't he?
Well, earlier today, the ball was very much in the court of Bibi Netanyahu and the Israelis. And I think at this point in time, the ball is now in the court of Hamas. And it's my sincere hope that Hamas accept this plan and we move to see a ceasefire, the hostages out, and the alleviation of suffering and the humanitarian aid that the people of Gaza now need. And we head to rebuilding that community and see us move towards the two states that all of your viewers will want to see.
And just finally, has Keir Starmer done enough today to quell the dissent amongst many in your party and keep his job?
Well, I have to say, I think most commentators have been saying the mood here over the last few days at Labour Party conference has been buoyed. This would have lifted up the room, I think, with that story of renewal. It's something that Labour members and activists can certainly knock on the door of the British people and speak to. And of course, the British people will be checking in to channels like yours, watching the news today and making their own mind up. And I think they'll have seen things here that they can take hold of.
OK, Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, thank you very much for speaking to us today from the Labour Party conference.